Space, the final frontier, to boldly go where no man has ever gone before. Well, unless you have visited Hollywood studio sets and NASA facility buoyancy pools where all fake space is filmed. Anyway, with all these supposed aliens that have visited Earth's enclosed system between 1947 and 2023, let me hand you over to the channel that is always smoking up the truth and spitting out the fiction, the lone gunman himself, Smoking Truth TV.
Shalom everyone, and welcome to Smoking Truth TV. This is show number 15, and the title for this video is UFOs and the Fake Alien Deception, Part 2, The Disclosure. If you haven't had chance to watch Part 1 yet, please feel free to stop this video and go and take a look at episode 14 first, just so you can catch up on what we have spoken about so far. In today's video, we'll be taking a deeper look into some subjects such as governmental man-made UFOs and other strange lights that we see in the sky, as well as some more early scientists that just may give us some clues as to whom actually designed some of these flying crafts of today. I will also be looking at the biblical side of things as well, and I will also be exposing those that have been deceitful to our fellow mankind, as well as some governments and high-ranking people that seem to have had contact from these demonic beings. So I ask you once again to grab your notepads and pens and come with me one more time as we try and bring this whole case to some kind of disclosure. Towards the end of part 1, we were talking about Aleister Crowley and his demon he conjured up called Lam. And as we also started to discover in part 1, there is more than just Aleister Crowley that's involved in this demonic conjuring, and as we're about to find out, they too have played their part in this great deception. If we start with this photo here, it seems to show us that something is being planned. I mean, don't you find it kinda odd that in this photo we have Arthur C. Clarke, the science fiction writer, Stanley Kubrick, a Hollywood director, and George Miller from NASA all talking together in one photo. To me, this looks like they planned a meeting together and were talking about how to fool mankind into thinking that there are other worlds out there in far distant galaxies. And their goal was to try and make the public believe that they can land on the moon while doing all kinds of crazy impossible so-called orbits. That's right, the same people who were responsible for the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. And with the help of Disney Studios and NASA Studios, they all clubbed together to fake the so-called moon landings. Just for the record, no, I don't believe we can go to the moon, and as I've said before, cool story bro, but I'm not buying it. Not with me yet? That's okay, how about this next photo? Walt Disney and Warner von Braun. Nope, nothing to see here, just a normal day in Normie Land. It just so happens that these men are two of the main key players in the top 5 deception plan regarding the UFOs and aliens we see today, and just like always, these men seem to leave some kind of breadcrumbs of the truth behind. Walt Disney is not only a 33rd degree Freemason, but also involved in the satanic occult. We won't go on too much about him, as most of you probably already know just how much he is involved in moulding people's minds, but here is an article I found fitting for the video. It says here, the Disney occult deception truth in reality. Walt Disney has accomplished numerous truly amazing feats when it comes to deceiving people, seeming to provide exciting yet wholesome entertainment while delivering witchcraft and occult mind control right into their homes. And I'm sure most of you know about the 666 code in his name, and with their Disneyland logo, they just love showing us the biblical reference to the firmament and the Tower of Babel. But as we have got lots to get through today, let's now move this along to Warner von Braun. And as we can see here, he is posing like he is the man behind the curtain, indoctrinating people's minds with plastic rockets and paintings of rockets flying to the moon. But if we was to look at Warner von Braun's gravestone, it would read, Warner von Braun, 1912 to 1977, Psalms 19:1. And of course, as some of you may know, Psalms 19:1 reads, "The heavens declared the glory of Yah, and the firmament showeth his handiwork." But what some of you may not know is, Warner von Braun had someone close to him who worked with him in his later years of life, and her name was Dr. Carol Rosin. She was a manager at Fairchild Industries between 1974 and 1977, and she has some amazing information. It seems after the death of Warner von Braun and some years later, she had strong feelings that she needed to share with the public some of the conversations that took place between herself and Warner von Braun. What we're about to read is one of the many speeches that she has given over the years. It's a little long, but well worth it, as it helps to piece even more of this puzzle together. She said, and I quote, "The enemy at first," he said, "the enemy against whom we're going to build a space-based weapon system. First, the Russians are going to be considered the enemy. Then, the terrorists will be identified, and that was soon to follow. Then, we're going to identify third world crazies. We now call them nations of concern. The next enemy was asteroids, and against asteroids we're going to build space-based weapons. And the funniest one of all was against what he'd call aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card, and over and over and over during the 4 years I knew him and was giving speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens, and all of it, he said, is a lie." I would say that this piece of information is very relevant, wouldn't you agree? Anyway, let's keep moving. Here is a man that you also may not know much about. I briefly touched on him in part 1, but let's dig a bit deeper now. It says here, Jack Parsons, founder of Jet Propulsion Laboratory, California Institute of Technology, follower of Aleister Crowley, leader of America's OTO. And at the bottom of this photo it has this to say. Jack Whiteside Parsons was founder of NASA's famous Jet Propulsion Laboratories. He was also a devoted follower of Aleister Crowley, aka the Beast 666. Parsons was the leader of Crowley's temple, OTO, in America. He was known to organise orgies and perform occult practices. Before each rocket launch, Parsons would chant Crowley's hymn to the Greek god Pan. Parsons was also landlord to Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard, who we will get to in just a few moments, but here is a few more articles that I found interesting. This one reads, Aleister Crowley did rituals to open portals for demonic entities, and so did Jack Parsons, who was the founder of Jet Propulsion Labs, which became NASA. The Babylon working rituals were done where Area 51 is now. Beginning to make sense to why they don't want people going there, but let's continue. They ripped open a grey alien portal, but the big demons want in too. That's what 9/11 mass rituals are for. Another article says, Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons opened a portal to extraterrestrials. It continues to say, Jack Parsons of Jet Propulsion Science fame was also a member of the OTO, and subsequently he practiced a form of rituals called the Babylon Workings, which not only reopened the portal that Crowley sealed years prior, but ripped open a bigger tear in the interdimensional or space-time fabric. And as we can see here by this newspaper, rocket scientist killed in Pasadena explosion. And not long after his death, his mother also died. As it says here, tragedy drives his mother to suicide. I guess that leaves us wondering, was he trying to close a portal, or was he trying to bring about the end of days? But Smoking Truth, if that's true, then why don't they just close the portal? That in itself is a good question, and as I've said many times before, I don't hold all the answers, but as far as I understand, the portal can only be closed by the one who opened it, and as both Jack Parsons and Aleister Crowley are both dead, it seems it would be impossible, and to be honest, I don't think they even want to, as we're about to find out. CERN and the Gates of Hell. Jack Parsons became the founder of JPL, and claimed that during the Babylon workings that both he and Hubbard were a part of widening the portal for Crowley's Alamantra workings, allowing the secret chief to enter in to help mankind. He later attempted another secret project, conjuring the lower key of Solomon to usher in the apocalypse. If you were to go search up portals, you will find pictures similar to this one. You know, kinda like that film Stargate, and with that vision in mind, it becomes easy to see that it's a spitting image to the Hadron Collider they have at CERN. And what is it they have just outside their headquarters? Oh yeah, no other than their pansexual tranny little g god Shiva, doing its dance as it comes through a portal. Before we get to L. Ron Hubbard, let me just throw this little piece of information in here as well. Why is there a statue of Shiva the Destroyer at CERN? Natriaja is a statue at CERN, Shiva in the Brahmantrianum stance. That basically means the universe dance. It is commonly referenced to as a cosmic dance. The statue represents both continuous creation and continuous destruction, as well as positive and negative charges. It's my understanding that this Pan God was the same Pan God Crowley, Parsons and Hubbard were all chanting while they done their rituals. And as we can also see by this picture, there is nothing new under the sun. And to me, this looks no different than the Baphomet sitting there cross-legged in its pose of, as above, same below. But let's get to this guy here, L. Ron Hubbard. Hey L. Ron, you're not fooling anyone with your alien BS. But to those of you who don't know who he is, here's a brief rundown. L. Ron Hubbard was the founder of Scientology, falsely claimed to have been a nuclear physicist, and most of you watching already know that nuclear bombs are fake unless he was learning about napalm, but let's continue. In reality, he flunked both high school and college, leaving after his sophomore years at George Washington University, during which he failed a course of molecular and atomic physics. Here is what his son had to say about him. L. Ron Hubbard's son, L. Ron Hubbard Jr., was highly critical of Scientology and claimed that black magic was the inner core of Scientology. He once stated, "My father did not worship Satan, he thought he was Satan." So after going through everything we have learnt so far, we can clearly see that there were 5 men responsible for the whole deception of a mess we're in. And if you haven't figured it out yet, then here's a quick recap on who they were. Aleister Crowley, Jack W. Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, Warner von Braun and Walt Disney. I don't entirely agree with the way this statement is worded, but it's definitely food for thought. Anyway, it says here, what does an avowed cultist, the founder of JPL and NASA, a science fiction writer and founder of the Church of Scientology, an ex-Nazi turned America's foremost rocket scientist, and Walt Disney, founder of the Magic Kingdom, have in common? Oh, you might be surprised to the extent of their collaborative efforts in Babylon. Sick Babylon. On behalf of Horus, Mars and the alien life forms, yes, you might be real surprised. Indeed, this is stranger than fiction. Then again, magic, aliens, space travel and science have a lot more in common than you might think. Then again, do Americans do all that much thinking? Yes, you'll be very surprised. We could also say that these same 5 men are responsible for the world order that has been in place for the last 100 years or so. But I don't have time to get sidetracked on that topic today. As some of you already know, that would be a whole video in itself. I guess you're probably wondering by now, what can be done about all this? Is there not anyone in our governments willing to oppose this for the greater good? Is there anything we ourselves can do that will help protect not just ourselves, but our friends and loved ones? And the answer to them questions would be, yes, of course there is. We have to remember, there is always hope, no matter how dark the days get. And if you're a follower of Yeshua the Messiah and our Father Yahweh, then this next part you might find interesting. You see, there is a group, or should I say groups, that are inside the One World government that do oppose the narrative and do believe they are indeed demons. One of the many groups out there is called the Collins Elite. Now, I didn't find much information on the Collins Elite, but of course, as some of you already know, all my research is done on a very out-of-date cheap Android phone I bought second-hand over 1.5 years ago. But with the things I discover, I hope they'll be useful to some of you and point you in the direction for you to do further research on them. Anyway, this article reads, the Collins elite are a religious fundamentalist Christian mainly, but not exclusively, individuals who interpreted aspects of the UFO and entity experience to be demonic in nature. It continues to say, Aleister Crowley channeled a demonic entity called Lamb, which helped in opening a portal for the phenomena to increase. This other article I found had this to say, the coming Great Deception. Their real origin, the group finally believed, was literally demonic. Ray related this and much more to me, which collectively demonstrated that there was a group, or probably groups, within the US government that believed the UFO phenomenon is real, but is of a negative spiritual nature. To find out who Ray is and more information on the Collins elite, as well as some other information I've given you today, you may want to track down this documentary called Higher Entities, The Lost Tapes. It is a great independent documentary made by a YouTuber called Justin Full. If you can't afford the DVD, there is a free one kicking about YouTube, but it's in lower quality format. But let's now get to the part regarding how can we protect ourselves from these demonic demons that are playing make-believe made-up aliens. This picture I found made it very helpful for me to be able to explain it to you a little easier. Let me just zoom in on this top part first. So it says here, are aliens just the same old demons? I'll give you another nail in the coffin of the alien deception. How do we know all these so-called aliens are really just more demons? Besides looking exactly like the spirit that appeared to Aleister Crowley and led him astray, by him getting into an altered state of consciousness to connect with them, circular researchers are saying the one thing that freaks aliens out is the name Jesus Christ. Do you know why, folks? It's because aliens are demons. Let's read more about this from a video transcript with a dialect that requires a few brackets to clarify what this UFO researcher said. All these circular researchers, interviewing people who have had encounters with so-called aliens, are told this about those aliens. They're deceptive. They lie to people. They're deceptive, but people never question it during the experience. Sadly afterwards, when asked, were you told this? Were you told this? They answer yes, and then someone tells them, but that's not true, and the other is not true. Doesn't it make you a bit suspicious? The only permanent solution is the authority of the Creator. He is the only one that obviously can have authority over these beings. They are not Neverland aliens visiting us from a galaxy far, far away. They are deceptive supernatural entities emanating from another dimension. Any serious expert would tell you that these are what they would describe as interdimensional beings that should have stayed in their spirit realm but crossed over into ours. With what we have just read, it says that you can cast these demons out in the name of the Creator, and by doing so makes them powerless over you. There are many articles scattered over the internet that will tell you the same, where it says aliens will flee when using the name Jesus Christ. For an example, this one reads, I want to make a point loud and clear, that if mentioning of the name Jesus is powerful enough to make these so-called aliens flee, then they are not aliens. Indeed, they are demonic entities that will flee and instantly dissolve right before your eyes with the name Jesus. In fact, that also goes for the name Yeshua and Yahuwah. And don't you find it strange that you have to sign a waiver to promise that you won't use the name Jesus or any kind of word associated with the Creator before entering some of these dumbs? Or should I say, deep underground military bases that are scattered all over the world. Here is a schematics of some underground bases in the US. It says here the map was created in 1978 and it shows a network of underground tunnels. It is a vast labyrinth of bases under the US, with most of the entrances located in national forests. Depending on where you get your information from, some people claim that there are 3 races of demons that play out as if they're aliens that reside in some of these bunkers. The short, grey or sometimes green aliens are the ones that are well known in common pop culture. Another race is described as being long, tall and thin. These are also referenced to be a part of the greys, or sometimes the shiny ones. But there has also been some reports that flat out call them the Nephilim. But if the truth be told, they all stem from the biblical reference of the Nephilim, and you would be able to test this when reading the Book of Enoch and connecting it with the Book of Genesis 6:4, where it says, "There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men. These were the mighty men of renown," aka giants, that we read about in Numbers 13:33, otherwise known as the Nephilim. These were the offspring of the fallen angels. The Nephilim were the flesh-eating giants that perished in the great flood, but because they were not intended to be created by the Creator, their spirit does not ascend to heaven or descend to hell. Instead, they dwell on the earth, devouring mankind's spirit and mind. And just like the fallen angels did in Scripture, by teaching mankind all sorts of things to weaponry and perverting the earth, while also lying to mankind. It is my understanding that some of these fallen angels have crossed over to our dimension with the help of Crowley, Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard and such alike, and it is also my understanding that these demons have been teaching mankind new advancements. Look, don't get it twisted, I'm not saying all UFOs are man-made. There are a few exceptions, but only a few. Here, let's dive into the next part. If you're a sky watcher like myself, then you have most probably noticed lots of moving orbs of light in the night sky. Yes, I know, some will say they're just satellites or Starlink or even the ISS. The trouble is with them statements are, then why do they look like this when you zoom into them? To me, they look like they are vibrating and giving off some kind of frequency. Here is another picture, pulsating lights that are almost see-through. Of course, there are some similarities to what people call ball lightning. These balls of electric plasma or electrified ionized gases can either float about in the sky and also very low to the ground. But if I was to describe these moving stars to people, I would have to say they look very similar to something like this: electric translucent blue jellyfish, or in short, electric jellyfish. It also reminds me of what we see here with the blue and pinky red colours when we look at a plasma ball. It's also my opinion that these moving electric jellyfish also holds a kind of consciousness, and if that is the case, could it be the consciousness of the ether? For those of you who are unfamiliar with the term ether, here are two quick articles that you can easily find, but please bear in mind that these are of course written with beach ball earth in mind, but if you use your discernment you'll be able to understand what these articles are talking about. Wikipedia says, in physics, ether theories, also known as ether theories, propose the existence of a medium, a space-filling substance or field as a transmission medium for the propagation of electromagnetic or gravitational forces. This next article comes from Britannica.com and it says, ether, also spelled ether, also called luminous-various ether, in physics, a theoretical universal substance believed during the 19th century to act as the medium for transmission of electromagnetic waves, e.g. light and X-rays. As much as sound waves are transmitted by elastic media such as air, the ether was assumed to be weightlessness, transparent, frictionless, undetectable, chemically or physically. When looking at these moving stars or electric jellyfish, to me, I believe they are a part of the ether, or the plasmatic part of the ether. I also believe they do indeed have some kind of consciousness, to be able to move across the sky the way they do. But what about all the other objects that people have witnessed flying through our skies? They definitely are not planes or balloons. Some are round, some look like little balls, some are triangular in shape, some look like small tic-tacs, and some even look like flying saucers. Well, they are also UFOs, but they are only UFOs to the regular normal people. Here, let me explain what I have come to understand what these flying crafts actually are. Now there is no doubt in my mind that these mystery triangular shaped crafts that have been spotted all over England, America, China, as well as the rest of the world are indeed real, and these objects have not just been spotted by the military and airline pilots, but many normal regular people as well. Myself included have also witnessed this craft, either hovering slowly in the night sky, then suddenly vanishing before my eyes, or doing different kinds of manoeuvres that would be unexplainable to some people. But these are not UFOs from outer space, as that would be nuts. Instead, let's see if we can find out what these crafts truly are by running through a few articles. This one from BroBible.com says, triangular UFO or top secret military aircraft captured on video. The UFO conspiracy theorists allege that the images are of a TR-3B, a long-rumoured top-secret United States Air Force spy plane. The TR-3B Black Manta is allegedly a surveillance plane that is believed to have been developed for the USAF as part of a black project. This next one comes from Wikipedia, and it says, Black Triangle UFO reported as having a triangular shape and dark colour. Typically observed at night, described as large, silent, hovering, moving slowly and displaying pulsating coloured lights, and they can also turn their lights off. This next article comes from theeventchronicle.com, and it says, TR-3B pattern is now in the public domain. It continues to say, the USA's most secret plane, TR-3B pattern, is now in the public domain. John Morse, May 17, 2017. It goes on to say the TR-3B is codenamed Astra, and as it points out at the bottom here, its first operational flight was in the early 1990s. But to be honest, I think it dates back a bit further than that, and by my investigations, I would calculate that this type of plane dates back to around the mid to late 70s. This article was posted on September the 21st, 2022, and it says, the TR-3B is an actual real spacecraft with a real US pattern, 3-minute read. The TR-3B spacecraft, which is always getting mistaken for a real UFO quite regularly, as it turns out it's actually this amazing, and a very real triangular spacecraft. This next one says, US military top secret anti-gravity spacecraft. TR-3B, and it says here the US Navy has been granted a pattern for an advanced aircraft which resembles a flying saucer UFO. Military inventors filed plans for a highly unusual flying machine which uses an internal mass reduction device, that we'll get into in a minute, to travel at extreme speeds. What that means is the aircraft uses complex technology. And this last article, I put it in the video as I found it amusing, as it's from themilitary.com, where it says, TR-3B, anti-gravity spacecraft, an unanticipated problem was encountered. Check back soon and try again. Error code. You see, there are many types of planes or electrostatic flying machines, and the governments of the world all know about them, and have been building them for over 100 years. Well, in our era that is, and if you took the time to search these up, you will come across many different types of flying crafts that have been built over time. I mean, most of you have seen this one before, surely, the famous German Die Glocke, or Nazi Bell as some may call it. Or this one that is owned by the US Air Force back in the early 1950s. I tell you, the more you go digging, the more you will find. So how was it that our governments were able to come up with these things? Well, again, we have to look in the past, but not at our governments, but rather who the government screwed over in the first place to then go on to proceed with their planned agenda. But as part 2 is taking me a bit longer than I originally thought, we will have to wait until the next episode of Smoking Truth TV to be able to find that out. If you have enjoyed this video and information I have presented here today, then please hit the thumbs up button and also subscribe so you can be alerted when the next episode is uploaded. As some of you already know, the following instalment for this now 3-part trilogy will be entitled UFOs and the Fake Alien Deception Part 3 Endgame. And it will be featured here in episode 16 of Smoking Truth TV. As always, take care out there, brothers and sisters. The times we're in right now are becoming darker by the day, but our Father the Creator will be watching over the ones that are speaking and seeking the truth, for their eyes have been opened. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all again soon for some more Smoking Truth TV.